In this lesson, we're going to have a look at the opening scene of Slumdog Millionaire and use the following protocol to analyse the film techniques in the scene. Identify, describe, interpret, evaluate. Identify simply means to identify the film techniques. We don't have to identify all of them, just the ones that really stand out, for whatever reason, good or bad. When we describe a film technique, we're giving basic but important information about how it's used. We're answering questions like who, what, where, when, and how. If it's a close-up, whose face is the focus? What are their facial expressions? If it's non-diegetic music, be specific about the volume, tempo, and pitch. If it's a transition, describe what's being cut from and to. If it's an element of mise-en-scène, think about the size, the shape, and the colour and position of whatever it is you're talking about. Once we've described how the film technique is used, we can offer an interpretation. The description will act as evidence for your interpretation. Interpreting a film technique means discussing how it adds meaning. How might it make the audience feel? What does it reveal about the characters? How does it help explore the themes of the movie? Lastly, you'll also need to evaluate the film technique. To do this, you need to ask if using the film technique in that way was effective. Did it achieve the purpose for which it was intended? Or would another film technique have been more effective? In this video, we'll just focus on identifying and describing film techniques. In part 2, we'll cover interpretation and evaluation. Let's use the opening scene of Slumdog Millionaire as an example of how we might do this. We'll watch it through once, and on the second run through, we'll break down some of the techniques.
Name.
Good evening, namaskar, sat sri akal, adab. Welcome to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Are you ready?
Please give a big round of applause
Good luck,
to
kid.
our very first contestant of the night, Jamal Malik from our very own Amchi Mumbai. Chalo, let's go.
Name. Mother Chod. Name.
Malik.
You have a name. Good. Stop crying.
Thank you very much. So Jamal, tell me something about yourself.
Can you call Santa? Hey, Joe. Good.
A phone basher. And what type of call center would that be?
XL5 mobile phones.
Oh, so you're the one who calls me up every single day of my life with special offers, huh?
Actually, I'm an assistant.
An assistant phone basher? And what does the assistant phone basher do exactly?
I get tea for people and
Chai wala. A chai wala! Well, ladies and gentlemen, Jamal Malik, garma garam chai dene wala from Mumbai. Let's play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
So, has he confessed yet?
Except his name, I could not get anything out of the front.
Let's watch it again, but this time we'll stop at a couple of points. The most striking thing that stands out to me is how yellow this scene is. I also noticed that so far we've mostly had close-ups to show us what's happening. The editing technique shot reverse shot is being used to transition between these close-ups, and I can hear the sound of one of the characters blowing smoke. Let's watch a bit more.
Name.
Good evening, namaskar, sat sri akal, adab. Welcome to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Are you ready?
Please give a big round of applause
Good luck,
to
kid.
our very first contestant of the night, Jamal Malik from our very own Amchi, Mumbai. Chalo, let's play.
Name. Mother Chod.
So we've been cross-cutting between two different points in time. And these cross-cuts are also smash cuts because of the high contrast between the two scenes. We noted before that the interrogation has a very yellow colour palette, which is really different to the blues we're seeing in the game show. Another difference is the sound. Whilst in the interrogation there's no background noise and we can hear Jamal breathing, the sound of the crowd and music in the game show almost drowns out the sound of Jamal's voice. However, there are some important similarities between the two scenes. In both we have close-ups featuring strongly. We've also got the position of the characters. Both scenes focus on two characters, Jamal and another person who is asking Jamal questions. I just want to rewatch an important transition and do so in slow motion. See how the hand that slaps Jamal in the game show scene is actually hitting him in the interrogation scene. This is an important technique that we'll revisit really soon. Now we're heading into description. I'll just focus on the techniques that I think work well together. I really like the smash cuts because they happen really suddenly and highlight the contrast between the mise-en-scène and the sound of each scene. Yellow and quiet versus blue and bright and noisy. I also think the graphic match that utilises the slap is really interesting. It suggests some sort of connection between the two scenes. We've got Jamal with quite similar facial expressions in both scenes. He is wide-eyed and open-mouthed. Right, so I've identified some film techniques and described how I think they've been used. This brings us to the end of part 1 of these videos. In the next video, we'll move on to interpretation and evaluation. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to check out our rival channel, Al and Robbo's Amazing Maths and Science channel.